The importance of parasitic disease is this, that they are most of, not all, but some of them are very prevalent, very prevalent. They exist in nature, uh, in, I should say, in an unmanageable form. So that is why in veterinary science we have a separate parasitology subject to understand the life cycle of parasites, their pathology, their biology. We have to study all these things to understand and control them. When we are practicing as veterinarians, the maximum cases we encounter, maximum case, I'm telling you, more than infectious disease, we encounter the parasitic disease. Directly or indirectly, they are causing havoc in the field of veterinary science. In fact, many infectious diseases are actually the secondary effect of parasitic disease. The parasitic diseases are actually causing the deficiency of the nutrients. They are causing the irritation by poisons released by them. They are causing the, I should say, the disturbance in the body system, and all this leads to immunosuppression and the the occurrence of uh, the infectious and metabolic diseases. Hmm? There are numerous effects of parasites. There are numerous effects of parasites. If I enlist out, the parasites compete for nutrients. If they are blood-sucking parasite or the enteric parasites, they compete for the nutrients. They cause deficiency. Second point is that the parasites will cause the disturbance in digestion, especially endoparasites, parasite present in the intestine. They cause disturbance in the digestion by simply their presence, by simply their presence, or because of the tissue damage they cause there, the tissue damage they cause. Then the parasites also induce induce unwanted immune response, and can lead to immunosuppression directly. By unwanted response, they can directly lead to immunosuppression. Then parasites also release poisonous substances, poisonous substances, and these poisonous substances lead to body disturbance as well as improper immunity, or I should say once again immunosuppression. Immunosuppression. So likewise, keeping all these points in mind, we have to discuss the parasitology of the poultry diseases. So first are flukes. Flukes. Now we are discussing. There are two types of worms. Two types of endoparasites or worms we discuss. There are flatworms and roundworms. Flatworms, if you see them in cross section, they will be dorso-ventrally flattened. They will be like a leaf, dorso-ventrally flattened, flatworms. And then there are roundworms. If you cut the roundworms, you will see the cross section is round. Hmm? Flatworms are of two types, flukes and tapeworms. Hmm? The flukes and tapeworms. Okay. And roundworms, we have the normal, not normal, means of course the very frequently encountered worms in human beings also. Those are the roundworms. So first we discuss the flukes. Hmm? Flukes include the Prostogonimus macroorchis. First one is oviduct fluke of poultry. Oviduct fluke of poultry, Prostogonimus macroorchis. Prostogonimus macroorchis. This fluke resides inside the oviduct of the bird. Oviduct of the bird. It causes irritation in the oviduct, leading to hypermotility. Its presence will lead to irritation in the oviduct, and the peristaltic movement of oviduct becomes very fast. So, so the speed of movement of the ova is changed. Speed of movement of ova is changed, and therefore what happens is that the ova is not formed, and the secretions of glands as well as the exudate because of irritation starts appearing in the feces through the cloaca, actually through the cloaca, not feces, through the cloaca. So the affected birds will show malformed eggs, sometimes egg-bound condition, egg peritonitis, malformed eggs, egg-bound condition, egg peritonitis, and also white droppings. White droppings. Especially the shell gland secretions will appear as white droppings. The copious amount of white droppings will be coming out. The intermediate host of the this fluke is snail, and sometimes this now in modern poultry science, in the commercial poultry, this biosecurity has reduced the incidence of these things. But in backyard poultry and the local birds, many times in their eggs, such kind of this a fluke may appear actually in the egg. When we open the egg, a live or dead fluke may actually appear there. It gets incorporated in the egg while formation of egg. So this is Prostogonomus makrorchis, the fluke oviduct fluke of poultry. Please read this chapter also from book. Read the correct spellings also. All right. Then tapeworm. Tapeworm. Acha, please remember that these tapeworms, these cestodes, these nematodes, flukes, all these appear more on deep litter system. Their chance of appearance in the caged birds is very rare actually. Until and unless the feed is very badly contaminated, there is less chance that these worms will appear in the caged birds. These appear in the deep litter system or in the backyard poultry system. Okay. So first one is Devenia proglottina. Devenia proglottina. Devenia proglottina is the most pathogenic tapeworm of poultry. Most pathogenic tapeworm of poultry. The infection leads to severe emaciation, anemia, digestive disturbance, and death of the bird. Severe anemia, emaciation, digestive disturbances, and death of the bird. Devenia proglottina. This tapeworm it literally will block the whole intestine. The bird will lose condition and die. Hmm? Intermediate host is snail. Intermediate host is snail. Then there is Rhylatina tetragona. Hmm? Simply you write Rhylatina tetragona. There is Rhylatina tetragona. Now the intermediate host once again are the ants. Intermediate host are ants. These are the second most pathogenic tapeworm of the poultry. They cause once again emaciation, anemia, poor production, poor body condition and foliage. Foliage means the feathers, poor body condition and foliage, and death in extreme cases. And death in extreme cases. Then another species of Rhylatina echinobotrida, or simply Rhylatina echinobotrida. Once again, Rhylatina echinobotrida, the intermediate hosts are the ants. Intermediate hosts are the ants, and it causes the nodular disease of the intestine. Nodular disease of the intestine, or we should say the parasitic granuloma. Parasitic granuloma, or parasitic nodular disease of chicken. Parasitic nodular disease of chicken. What happens is that I have not talked about the other tapeworm also. All tapeworms have very similar biology. Tapeworms have a head, which is called as scolex. Tapeworms have a head called as scolex, and this head will attach to some part of intestine. And from this head arise the reproductive structure. Reproductive structures called as proglottids. Reproductive structures called as proglottids. And what you actually see in a tapeworm, a lengthy tapeworm appears like a tape, a segmented tape. What these segments are proglottids. And these segments contain the reproductive structure. They are hermaphrodite. They have male and female structure in the same the individual or same parasite. And these proglottids not only are reproductive but also are active in absorption of nutrients. They also absorb the nutrients. So when this tapeworm keeps growing, this proglottid or this tape part covers the whole intestine. And while covering the whole intestine, it not only enriches the tissue but also blocks the flow of nutrients and also absorbs the nutrients from the intestine, not only causing the tissue damage. Everything is there. The point here now see Dabinia proglottina, large number, very aggressive absorption of nutrients. So bird literally starves out. Same way, second number is Ralatina tetragona. Same way, it will block the intestine, absorb the nutrients, and starve out the bird. Ralatina echinobotrida is little bit weak in absorption as compared to Davinia and tetragona, but where the where the head is attached to intestine, where the head is attached, that scolex is attached to intestine, at that point it leads to severe granulomatous reaction. Severe granulomatous reaction. Granuloma is formed, and this granuloma becomes nodule. It becomes like nodule. If you remember in TB also we have seen that. If you remember in JS disease, Hajare disease, we have seen that. Many diseases we have seen that. Now in this case, the intestine becomes the site becomes granulomatous, and there is formation of a nodule at the site of attachment of the parasitic head, and this is called as parasitic granuloma, Ralatina echinobotrida. Okay, these are the important. There are numerous poultry parasites, endoparasites, but these are the important ones. Then we come to nematodes. Nematodes or the roundworms. Nematodes or roundworms. If you remember, I have shown you one picture uh, of nematode inside the intestine during the practicals. That noodles-like structure. Those were Escherichia galli. Escherichia galli. Escherichia galli are the most pathogenic roundworms of poultry. Most pathogenic roundworms of poultry. They lead to hemorrhagic enteritis. They are also largest roundworm of poultry. They are also largest. They are so large that even many of the mammalian parasites, roundworms, are smaller than them. Actually, Escherichia galli is largest roundworm of poultry. Escherichia galli is most pathogenic roundworm of poultry. Most pathogenic tapeworm of poultry is the Dabinia proglottina. Most pathogenic roundworm of poultry or nematode of poultry is Escherichia galli. The tapeworms are also called as cestodes, and flukes are also called as the trematodes. Okay, so nematode or roundworm, uh, tapeworm or cestode, fluke or trematode. So Escherichia galli is the most pathogenic and largest nematode parasite of poultry, especially chicken. It causes hemorrhagic enteritis. The bird shows severe emaciation, anemia, immunosuppression, dull foliage, hmm, weakness, and also in advanced cases death. Last year, one of our local faculty members keeps birds in their home, and we found case of this uh, escherichiosis in their farm, and the birds have started dying. It was so severe infestation, and we processed the intestine by histopathology and found that there were numerous nematodes, and they have actually destroyed the intestinal villi structure, not wall. The intestinal mucosal structures have been destroyed by them. I have some photographs. I will show you. In practicals, I will show you. Then next is Hetrachis gallinarum. Hetrachis gallinarum. I think you might have heard this word, Hetrachis gallinarum. Hetrachis gallinarum is the cecal worm, and it is known to transmit the Histomonas meleagritis. It is known to transmit the Histomonas meleagridis. In heavy infection of heterophage, nodule formation occurs in the ceca and also in the liver. It can also attack the liver. Hepatic granuloma also occurs. Heterachis gallinarum not only affects the ceca but also leads to hepatic granulomas. Once again same way, wherever it is affecting, that site leads to formation of granulomatous reaction, which later develops into a nodule. Hmm. Then we come to a respiratory pathogen, respiratory not pathogen, respiratory roundworm, respiratory roundworm of poultry. This is one of the very commonly asked question. If you ask me one single question, I have been asked numerous times during the veterinary field, veterinary science, but never seen that case. Never ever seen that case. After rinderpest, it is the Synghammus trachea. This one. This it's a very pathogenic roundworm. It resides in the tracheal bifurcation. Synghammus trachea. Synghammus trachea, also called as gape worm, Gape. Gape. Gape worm means when it is present, bird shows open beak breathing. There is blockage to the respiratory passage, and bird shows open beak breathing. It is red in color, so it is also called as red worm of poultry. It is called as Synghammus trachea. Means Synghami means marriage. Synghami means marriage, and this worm is having a very peculiarity that the male and female, they are attached together. They always live together. They are attached together, and the male is smaller, female is larger. Male is smaller and female is larger, and male is attached towards the one end of the bird. So if you carefully examine the Synghammus trachea, you will see that male and female, they can bifurcate out, but they are attached at same point. So they give a forked appearance, fork, forked appearance or Y-shaped appearance. Y appearance. Y, so it is also called as Y-shaped worm or forked worm. Y-shaped worm or forked worm or red worm or gape worm. Synghammus trachea, and this resides in the tracheal bifurcation, present in the tracheal bifurcation, and it can go up to the bronchi and bronchioles. It can go as low as bronchi and bronchioles. Wherever it is present, wherever it is present, uh, it causes severe inflammatory reaction in the lungs, very severe inflammatory reaction in the lungs, and predisposes the lungs to other pathogens. There is also occurrence of other pathogens accordingly. So there is severe pneumonia, parasitic pneumonia, severe parasitic pneumonia in the severe parasitic tracheitis, bronchitis, even up to pneumonia in the bird. So there is the bird, because of heavy infestation and blockage of lungs, the bird suffers from dyspnea. Dyspnea, and bird will try to breathe with open mouth and outstretched neck. Open mouth and outstretched neck. Hmm? We call that gaping. Gaping. And in later stages, there is cardiorespiratory failure and death in the bird. Hmm? Although I have never seen, personally, I have never seen, but it is said that this worm still occurs in the backyard poultry and very rarely in the deep litter system. Very rarely in deep litter system also we find this. Okay. Then we go to ectoparasites. What we have discussed just now are endoparasites. They reside inside the body of animal of the bird. Then we go to ectoparasites. These are residing on the surface of the of the bird or animal. And like the lice are there, flea are there, mites are there. These are the ectoparasites. So first one are lice. Lice. The lice is plural, and louse is a singular. So first one is Minacanthus stramineus. Minacanthus stramineus. It is the blood louse of poultry. It is the blood louse of poultry. It leads to weight loss, poor production. It leads to severe weight loss and poor production. This louse will also clot blood and cause the irritation to skin. When in heavy infestation, and now the lice have a property that they multiply very fast, and they lead to uh, the extensive infestation. Lot of louse will be present on the bird. So what happens? There is so much of irritation that the bird will stop eating. There will be extensive inflammatory reaction in the skin, dermatitis, loss of feather, loss of blood, that the total farm becomes stagnant. Birds are all the time itching by their beak, causing the injury, causing the injury, and this injury also leads to development of habit of cannibalism in the farm. Development of habit of cannibalism in the farm. Now, the birds which are losing blood, not eating, they are continuously irritated, become immunosuppressed, start showing weight loss, poor production, and feather loss from the body. And in severe cases, they also show death. In severe cases, they also show death. Direct effect of Menacanthus staminis in the death is because of anemia and starvation. Otherwise, there is also occurrence of secondary infections. Then there is Cuculotogaster heterographus. Cuculotogaster heterographus. Cuculotogaster heterographus is the feather and head louse of poultry. Feather and head louse of poultry. It is preferably present in the head region and below the feather, causes the loss of the foliage from this region, and also the uh, the loss, also the injury found because of itching in these regions. Although head, it will rub here and there. One effect is that wherever these lice are present, the bird will try to peck that region because of irritation. And this pecking leads to even formation of wounds in that area. Even wounds can form in that area. So that is how we can actually recognize which area is more affected. So feather and head louse of poultry, Cuculotogaster heterographus. This area will show loss of the feather and foliage from the area and dermatitis. Then Lipunus caponis. Lipunus caponis. This is wing and tail feather. Wing and tail feather louse of poultry. Lipunus caponis. Wing and tail feather louse of poultry. Lipurus capinis is affecting the wing part and especially the tail feathers of the poultry. So there is particular loss of the feathers from the wing region and tail region, and wounds formation in that region, that part. Hmm. Apart from this, all the ectoparasites, if they are present causing irritation, they will definitely lead to development of vice of cannibalism in the later stages. Then mites, there is Dermanisus gallinae. Dermanisus gallinae, this is called as red mite of poultry. Red mite of poultry. Dermanisus gallinae, it transmits Borrelia anserina. It transmits Borrelia anserina. It can transmit Borrelia anserina. It feeds at night. So specifically, at night the birds are seen uneasy. Especially at night, the birds are seen uneasy. It never leaves the host, so it is very easy to diagnose the presence of this mite. It will always be present on the host. Other parasites, they tend to jump off, so this will always be seen on the present on the host. It causes Borrelia anserina. It causes severe dermatitis and itching, and because of that, the birds are the birds are irritated, and uh, they showing the disturbance in immunity, as well as the uh, I should say hypersensitive reactions, hypersensitive dermatitis. Actually, this is one aspect of the ectoparasites, that in severe prolonged infestations, the hypersensitive dermatitis starts appearing. Then Nemidocoptes gallinae. Nemidocoptes gallinae, it is deplumbing itch mite. Deplumbing itch mite. Deplumbing means because of there will be so much of itching, that there is extensive loss of feathers. Extensive loss of feathers. Hmm? The deep plumbing itch mite, Ornithonisus sylvianum, Ornithonisus sylvianum, northern fowl mite. Acha, these names you please note down properly. Okay, these are the commonly asked question here also in parasitology also, even in GRF also. Ornithonisus sylvianum, northern fowl mite, northern fowl mite, Nemidocoptes gallinae, deep plumbing itch mite. Nemidocoptes gallinae, deep plumbing itch mite. Nemidocoptes mutans, Nemidocoptes mutans, scaly leg mite, scaly leg mite. Now, Nemidocoptes mutans, when the infestation is taking place, there is severe dermatitis of the legs, and the scales start forming there. Scales start forming there. I should say scaly crust start forming there. So it is also called as scaly leg mite, Nemidocoptes mutans. Then Nemidocoptes nudis. Nemidocoptes nudis. This is very important. It is asked numerous times. This mite is found in air sac, bronchi, and lungs. All other mites are found on the surface of the body of bird. Surface of the body of bird, while Nemidocoptes nudis is found in the air sac, bronchi, lung, and bone cavities. Found in air sac, bronchi, lungs, and bone cavities. Now we go to ticks. Ticks of the poultry. The first one is Argus persicus. Argus persicus, very notorious tick, very commonly found. In fact, Argus ticks I have myself seen numerous times during my practice. Still, I find it sometimes. It also transmits Borrelia anserina. It also transmits Borrelia anserina. You understand this presence of ticks means presence of protozoal disease. It is very notorious. Not only it causes damage by itself, but also transmit disease. Argus persicus, it can lead to very heavy infestation of birds, causing anemia, anorexia, weight loss, anemia, anorexia, weight loss, poor egg production, poor egg production, anemia, anorexia, weight loss, poor egg production in the birds, and also transmit the Borrelia anserina. Wherever the site of attachment, there will be formation of the dermatitis, local dermatitis, and in heavy infestation, immunosuppression also occurs, and secondary diseases start appearing. Okay, so that's how I conclude the parasitic diseases of poultry. Please try to remember the spelling also. Please refer the book, that will also expose you to so much of more aspects of these diseases. Although all will be repeated in next year in the parasitology, no doubt, but this year there's always chance of questions coming on this. Okay, anything you want to ask? Anything? Okay, then I conclude this class. Thank you.